how to get to our place.
Yeah, that's one thing we mentioned in the newsletter that if you're interested, we'll do a tour of these places and you can all take a look at what's being done. And we can do it whenever you want to do it. We'll work out the time that's suitable to everybody. We can discuss it at the end.
Okay. I'll leave these here, and you can either come collectively or individually, whatever suits. We're usually there. We go through the next 2 or 3 weeks, and here's some little map. I think I'll pass these around. Now, I guess where I'm coming from is totally different. It's 180 degrees different than what we've already heard and the way you go about building. But I was asked to speak and tell you how we built or are building our home. And the first thing I'll do is pass these around. Now this is just a composite. I took them out as these are detailed steps of how they're pictorial steps of how we built the house. And I'll pass them around so you can see the details. And for those that don't care about the details and would just like to see the general idea, I'll pass this one first. This will give you a general idea. First of all, I show you where I'm coming from in contrast to what's been going on. Ruth, my wife, and I decided to build a house, and we acquired a piece of land to do this. We talked to people about building. We went to contractors, we went to designers and so forth, and the ideas that they had didn't suit our needs, and we didn't feel comfortable with, and also the price range, the designing, the architecture, and everything. So we were faced with either going ahead and putting out a lot of money for professional advice and professional ideas, none of which really felt comfortable with us, or go ahead and do it ourselves. So as was mentioned in the last meeting about drawing up the plans on an 8 by 10 piece of paper, this is our total plan. This is all we've ever had, and it'll be in the first book here. And it's been changed very slightly since we started construction. I'll start. See, why don't I start this way, and one maybe in the middle. You'll see them kind of backwards, but eventually get to the starting point. We sat down and decided we both have just a fundamental education. We haven't done very much building, either one of us, and very little designing. I had a commercial diving business for 12 years, and then I had a locksmith business until I retired. But building was generally something I hired out. Well, when we looked into the cost of building and cost of materials, they seemed to have quadrupled since I had last checked the market, and they really shocked us. We thought, we're going to really have to do something different. So we sat down and we studied different ideas. We found that through Bucky Fuller, geodesic domes and spheres and icosahedrons and so forth, we found a very unique strength in a minimum amount of displacement, a minimum amount of material costs to build them. So we decided to go with a round house. We wanted to be as close to self-sufficiency as we could get. We wanted to, as much as possible, feed and take care of all our needs ourselves. We didn't want to tie into the grid system, the electrical, or the phone, or anything else. So we step by step decided to look into alternatives. started on our property in a little 6 by 12 travel trailer. And for the first 9 months, while we were waiting for our property to clear in California, we lived in very close quarters. During that time, we talked about building. And we thought, what about this and what about that and so forth. Well, we didn't really work at it. We had fun. We'd get an idea and we'd toss it around, and then we'd get another idea and we'd add or subtract from it. And the formula we came up with was in itself unique for this area that we've seen. Instead of conventionally facing south with our solar, we face north. One of the reasons was we had a northern hillside. We got 12 acres, but the part that was sloped was facing to the north. So we decided to look into the potential of this. But we couldn't find any available information, and most of the things that we read advised to face south and drawing your sun's energy to deeper. Well, in looking into it, we realized that due to the tilt of the planet, your cooler airs are to your north side, and your sun being projected on the southern side can act as a pump. So what we did, as you'll see in the pictures, we made an opening like a funnel to the north. And then we built our opening to the north side. And in the center, like a donut, we put a hole. And this is a solarium. We lined the floor with 4-inch flagstone for a thermal mass to collect the heat. And of course, the whole construction of the downstairs is blocked, so this acted as an additional collector of heat. So the winter months, it would heat the stones, this was the theory, and radiate back into the house slowly at night. In the summer months, now this is, all our tests are not conclusive, but the ones that we've made so far, in the first year that we've experienced it, have been to our satisfaction 100%. By facing north and opening the solarium in the back side of the house, we create a moving body of air that acts like an air conditioner. The house in its present state is maintaining 60 degrees day or night, summer or winter. The only time that it ever dropped below that was when we didn't have the solarium glassed in. There's some funny pictures in there that you'll see a pyramid type effect. We were running in close to cold weather, and we wanted to get something over the top so we could continue to work in the house. So we put up this PVC pyramid. It's more like a teepee, circular. And then we covered that with what's called plexiglass. It's a new polycarbonate, UV-treated material that seems to work very well. We didn't have any problems until we got heavy snow, and the low temperatures cracked the PVC. It actually exploded the PVC, and we lost our canopy and caved in on it. At that time, the temperature went down to 40 degrees. The temperature outside at that time was around 0. And we still maintaining 40 degrees in the house with no additional heat. We put a wood-burning stove in there for a backup. So when you get up in the morning and it's chilly, you can throw a couple of logs in there, and it warms up very, very quickly. Our power, we decided to go with photovoltaic, and we couldn't afford to buy an array of panels. So we started, through the help of Gene, a very low scale of buying one panel at a time, one panel, one battery. Well, while we were in the trailer, this was sufficient to run everything we were using. We had a small TV and stereo and lights, and that was fine. Well, as we progressed on further to building the house, we knew we needed more power, and we watched, as Gene mentioned earlier, to take advantage of sales. We watched for sales and swap meets, and even the solar panels in those days, they had what was called cosmetic blends that you could get for sometimes almost half the cost. And the first panels we checked into were through Mother Earth News, I believe. They were going for, it's through conventional Sun magazine, an article was selling what we wanted for $1,100, a 35-watt panel. And we thought, boy, this is going to be expensive getting solar. Well, we wound up buying our whole array. We now have 6 panels, and they're working 100% efficiently. They have been from day one. And the total cost of all our array and all our batteries and everything else has never, it hasn't come to $1,100 yet. Well, I think about $1,250. 15, excuse me.
How much is it now?
About $1,500.
But you got so many years.
But yeah, that's inverters, and we're using AC and DC. But we found solar to be very, very fine. Conservation, like Gene mentioned, is very, very important in building. You have to really think of how much you need and ask yourself, well, you really can get by with less than that and be comfortable. And I found when we were living in a conventional house in the city, I used to take 2 or 3 baths a day and think nothing of it, and I'd water the garden, I'd forget to turn it off. I was a waster. I wasted quite a bit. Well, when we got out here, we decided not to drill a well. We decided to look into another concept for our water. And in 1923, the patents on air wells were first introduced in the United States. These were popular in the south of France, were very effective in earlier stages, in the early 1900s. And later on in Africa they were used. And all they are is a pile of rocks with a column in the center that's keeping the temperature difference. It's a thick pile of rocks. The potential between hot and cold and the facing down of the rocks as you stack them up creates a condensation effect. And the ones in south of France, which were huge, they were as big as this room, were collecting 1,000 gallons a day, and they were enough to supply just a small village with water. Well, we decided to look into this and build air wells, because we weren't sure where we wanted our well and how deep we wanted to go and everything else. Well, we started experimenting on a small basis with the high tech that's available now. There are certain polycarbonate, certain plastics that are available that make building a huge beehive out of rock unnecessary. And we discovered by taking an old ice chest and cracking it open to the northwest about an inch and leaving it there for a couple of days, we began to collect water. And we collected, well, it would average out to about 2 gallons a day, or 2 gallons in 24 hours in a thermos, in one of these thermos chests. So we got excited, and that's where we are now. We are designing and building a larger idea that will still be portable. Our needs for water have dropped considerably from using 100 gallons a day to using maybe 10 or 20. So our water now has become, our source of water has become a little different. Our communication system, we decided not to buy into small bell because it was expensive, the hookups were expensive, and the bills were constantly going up. So we took a ham radio course. We got into ham radio, and CB. And for the amount of communication that we need, we found this to be sufficient. You can make long-distance calls via ham radios. Ham operators do this all the time. You can touch your family and everything. The cost is considerably less than one long bell line. How am I doing on time?
Oh, you're not part of it.
Okay. Oh, well, by now you've seen some of the pictures and you're probably wondering what this cost us. Well, by following Gene's example of taking advantage of your sale and gearing yourself to think ahead, think of what you could possibly use before you actually need it. If you see something on sale or a good deal, a stack of lumber, or in the first thing we built was the root cellar. That's that little building off to the side. And we didn't know what we were going to use for the roof. Well, the guy was tearing down a fence, and it had some 2x10 planks that he built a fence with. Well, they were 50 years old, and he thought, well, these are going to expire. You can have them if you want to haul them away. Well, they were already dry wood. We found them to be sound, and by doubling them up, we found them to be quite adequate to support of 4 feet of dirt on top. So that cost us nothing but the hauling. When we came to the other materials, we checked around for lumber. We found it was out of range for what we wanted. As you can see, the roof had to have to work from a radius point and work out, and we wanted all our beams from the center. So we kept asking around, and we found an independent sawmill up in Parks, located between Williams and Flagstaff. The guy had retired, he bought himself a saw, and he was taking advantage of all the berms that the forestry we have in Colorado and Utah. You can, if you have a truck, you can haul this stuff away for the hauling. So he hauled it down here, and he had a stack of choice #1 ponderosa pine that had set for a year and a half, so it was pretty well, it was dry by the time we saw it. And we asked him, we told him what we were doing and everything. He said, well, my overhead's low, you can have it for, I think it was something like 20 cents a board foot. The lowest bid we got anywhere, his price was less than half of that. And there was free delivery, and there was 2 deliveries involved. And so, on and on, we went using garage sales and swap meets and even bargain. We traded some things. And the total cost, including the septic tank, and we didn't want to put a conventional septic in. We wanted to go with a Swedish idea, and we ran into trouble at the health department. They said, well, you can have it, but you're going to have to clear through the state and so forth and so on. So we decided, well, it was only $1,200. We didn't want to put it out, but let's go with the conventional one for now. And then later on, when we have the time, we'll get the type of system we want. So the septic was our first big expense. All the work on the house was done by Ruth and myself. We hired, with the exception of the initial hole, which was dug by a contractor. We did all the work ourselves. We started knowing nothing, and we started with little rulers and things like this, so we didn't know a darn thing. But we found that one thing kept leading to another. We took our time, and we had a general idea of what we wanted. And to this day, we never regretted building the way we did. We're very satisfied on all levels. If we made a mistake, we stopped and redid it. We tore everything out and started over because we wanted to be proud of that step before we went to the next. The total cost involved in that house to this day is less than $5,000.
Yeah, right.
I guess what I'm trying to say, it can be done if you just gear yourself, pace yourself the way you want to do it, and, not get in a hurry. We really didn't do any planning to speak of. We would sit down and get some ideas and we'd think about it and imagine this way and that way. Did a lot of mulling over in our heads, and then we went ahead and tried it. Well, 9 times out of 10 it worked. We were very, very lucky. That one time, though, we ran into trouble and we made mistakes and we had to correct them. But we haven't lost. We've increased our equity 200%. We've had a wonderful time building it. We've learned. Now maybe the next one would be boring. Maybe the money we make from this one we could hire to have part of it done. But the first one, if you make it fun and just make it like a game and just, don't get all involved or uptight about it, it can be a real rewarding experience. So I guess with that, is there any question?
What would you guesstimate how many man hours do you think you have actually in the construction? Just a wild estimate.
We started last February, so it's been a little over a year we've been working on it. We worked and we did a lot of traveling in between. We were taking little mini breaks. And that's another important thing we found. If it starts to get difficult, back off and go to another area or do something else or go to town. If you continue along the same line, you get really, it starts to become work. So I'd say the total man hours, I don't know, we never really figured it out.
We did a lot of time with the backfill and filling the...
Oh, incidentally, all the sand that you see, we hauled at a half-ton pickup. There was over 1,000 loads that we hauled back and forth from the creek beds. We hauled them up there and covered the thing on ourselves by shovel. All our roads were put in with rakes, hoes, and shovels. But it was all fun. None of it was hard work. As soon as it became work, we quit. So I don't know, the man hours.
Well, how many months?
Well,
if you were to condense the months and take the breaks out, how many months would it be?
Okay, on an average of an 8-hour day, say 5 days a week, I would say probably around 7 months to this point. 7 months to this point.
Okay, are you at 100% complete at this point?
No, we're only, now over the top of this, you'll see the dirt on top. There's 8 inches of soil on top of it. There's going to be what's called a monolithic dome. It'll be we're waiting for a clear acrylic that's cheap enough to blow over a balloon. We're going to put up a balloon and then blow the acrylic over that and then put our doors and vents into this. But so far, it's outrageously expensive. But we're comfortable down below right now, and so we can wait. We can afford to wait with all the new ideas that are coming out.
Are you 3/4 complete at this point, or?
We're,
Just the downstairs part. You just mean...
yeah, we're 3/4 completed with the downstairs.
It's going to be 2-story then?
Yeah, it's going to be top story, be the dome. It'll be a dome on top, and it'll be all clear. But we'll have rooms. It'll be a garden. But there'll be a lounge in the garden and a kind of breakfast nook in the garden. It'll be a kind of a different arrangement. Incidentally, in the top of the canopy, we designed it so that it in itself will be like a terrarium. It'll be double-skinned and collect its water, so it'll recycle water itself. We have sensors that will be put in by the plants that will automatically, when the plant becomes dry, turn the water source on, and then when it becomes saturated, turn it off. So the plants will take care of themselves, enabling us to travel, or, we don't have to be a slave to the green.
How many square feet do you have for your livable area?
It's 45 feet in diameter with a 15-foot in diameter solarium inside. So 45 feet? Yeah.
It's pretty good size.
What's the toilet that you usually...
Well, we've got where you got the conventional septic, and we didn't want to go with the conventional toilet because of the amount of water that was used. And we checked into the new concept of, I forget the name of it, it's the one with the little handle that's full on the top.
EFO.
Big pardon?
EFO.
Yeah. And we thought, well, we might have to go with that, but let's look around. So at a second-hand store, we found a RV toilet, brand new, that works in an RV with a little handle for $19. And so we mounted that on the existing septic system, and it works perfect. It takes about a quart of water. About once a week, we flush the whole system out, and we use the material in the septic to keep the action going. We had no problems at all. It works very efficient.
What did you do on the wall, the water system?
Okay, that's, we knew that would be a big concern because we had a lot of potential pressure on the backside, and we were on a hill, so we knew our drainage would be our most important thing. After we first dug the hole, we found we were on bedrock at 9 feet. Everything was almost solid bedrock. So we went down with pick and shovel an additional 6 inches around the periphery. We dug a little canal about 6 inches below floor level. And in the bottom of that, we put sand, and then I put a perforated drainage pipe on top of the sand, and then we filled it with, I used polyurethane plastic underneath, and then 2 feet of drained gravel on top of that, and then a layer of, up the walls, incidentally, was polyurethane, and then at the base, we reinforced it, put a lot of rebar around the base, and we reinforced it at about a 40-degree angle with concrete. We put corrugated tin all the way around at an angle, and then we just poured it full of concrete so that it had a brace against the edge of it. And then up the walls, we ran polyurethane plastic. We checked into the cost of cedars like Henry, waterproofing and so forth, and we felt that it would have been expensive to cover the whole thing with that. We wanted to try the drainage system first and see if it worked. And if it didn't, we'd have to dig the whole thing up and start over. We put the plastic up, and we, on top of the gravel, we put some tar paper with holes in it, so it would be an additional drain, and then we went on up with decomposed granite all the way up to the top. To this day, we've never had a leak, we've never had a crack, we've never had any problems. When it does, when the monsoons come down, the vents come out the front of the house, the exhaust, and the water that does come down just comes shooting out of those. It doesn't stay near the walls, and we never even got them down. So,
Did you have a slab there for the floor, or no?
no, we decided to leave the floor. I know I'm running over my time.
Okay, well, I was going to say, what I said at the beginning was that all three of us have spoken, as getting clear on questions, so we'll go through it.
We've left our floors, well, it was bedrock, so we hauled in sand, decomposed granite, and then we poured about 8 inches of decomposed granite over the floor. We found, I used to, in my early years, I was a machinist, and I used to stand for 8 hours on hard concrete, and I found that I had back problems and leg problems, and so did all the other machinists. It was, it's really hard on the system. So when it came to the flooring, we decided that sand is very nice to walk on, it's soft. And why not use the sand as a base, wet it down, put polyurethane over the top of that, put a good foam carpet padding, and then put a nice carpet on top of it. It works great. It's nice and soft. It's like having, if you have a 1-inch carpet on sand is like having a 3-inch. It's just like walking on air. It's very, very comfortable. So in our bedroom area, we designed it, for carpeting, and in the shop area, we were going to put linoleum, probably over maybe some plywood or something like that. And but the walls in the interior are going to be portable, so that you can expand or contract the rooms as you find or you want to find necessary or want to do. Since they're not load-bearing walls, they've got no support. They don't have to hold up any ceiling. We built them up just 6 feet. Our ceiling is 8 feet at the beam, the high end, 9 feet, graduating 1 foot down to the wall to 8 feet. We're going to build our walls at 6-foot levels so that the circulation of air will continue through the house. And these walls are going to be bookcases, or in some cases we've got some translucent material that's swap meet. It's real pretty stuff. It's something like this, only it's got bamboo weaved in it. So we decided to build those as part of the wall partition so that the light can come through from room to room. We had 8 skylights around the top of this originally. We had the whole, we had the glass, and incidentally, we had all the glass, the thermal cane, had a glass company that was throwing it away because it was cracked or because it was leaking. They haven't got time to go back and work over a leak. They'd rather discard it and start from scratch. So they said, take it away.
I think you've seen that one already.
And I just kept going back to the glass company, and we got all our thermal canes for the hauling. We put 8 skylights in, but by the time we got down there, we had so much light coming in from the solarium, we decided to just go with the 1 skylight you see there and bury the others. And we got plenty of light and plenty of heat and all the comfortability we need down there. So,
Did you grout all the cells in the block, concrete block? Did you fill all the cells in the concrete block?
only 4 feet where the rebar was. The other was filled with decomposed granite. And it works just every bit as good as that perlite or whatever, you buy commercial. In fact, we find it works better. Well, yeah.
You make your house adapt almost any conditions, like facing south or in different soils or...
Yeah, I think the design, it's unlimited. You can go in any direction with it. Or you can build it on a flat level or on a hillside. And if you've noticed the roof, in addition to having a round house, which means when you put the pressure on the side, once we started backfilling it, it cooled into itself and tightened itself up. So we didn't have to worry, it's like an egg. We didn't have to worry about a lot of weak points here and there. But in addition to that, on our roof, we built it like a spider web. Those are 2x8 timbers. We put them on top of our beams. The beams are 4x8s. And every 12 feet, we disjointed and went to the next sequence. And then when the earth, we've got about 40 tons of earth on top of the house. When it started pushing down, it laid everything out quite nicely and brought it into shape. And it tightened the whole effect. So the roof is nice and firm. It still has plenty of resilience you can jump on, and you feel a nice spring to it. And I'm sure if we could go up 2 stories with it, the amount of beams and everything involved, and not have any problems at all.
What's the makeup of the beams before you get to the roof? What's the make for the roof before you get to the earth, between the beams and the earth? What do you have?
Okay, when we came to that, we decided to just take conventional tar paper, 2 layers, put 2 layers of tar paper, and then someone gave us a couple of rolls of roofing, whatever it's called. What is it? No, it's the stuff with the gravel in it. Whoever it is.
Oh, shingles?
No, it's like a single roll. So So we put that on top of the tar paper, and then we put 6 mil polyurethane on top of that for vapor area, and then filled it in with dirt. On the outside edges, we put 6 inches of gravel and drilled holes around the periphery of the thing so there'd be an escape of the water. But we found it holds just enough moisture on the top to keep it cool in the hot sun, as well as keeping any plants you've got going, if they can get down deep enough, moist enough, without doing a lot of water. So that's another unique side feature that we got from
If you were going to have like a terrarium or greenhouse on top of it, would you plan on having like hydroponics, or you plan to right in the soil?
well, a lot of it's going to be hydroponics, but we found that pot growing is growing in barrels. You can move your plants around quite easily. And around the solarium, we decided to put, because there was only 2 inches of soil there, that this would be an ideal place to put barrels with dwarf fruit trees. So that, and if we got too much shade down below, we could move them around. In the hydroponics, we were going to run around the outside periphery and experiment with hydroponics. The center also is going to incorporate a spiral staircase, so you don't have to go outside to get upstairs. You can go up and pick your veggies and go down to the root cellar and put them to rest. And if there's any other questions, or I'll leave these maps here. And there's one other thing. Can I show them this? Because of the cost of building a house, I couldn't afford to run 30 copies off for you guys, but I did run 1 copy of the air well, and I sent to the patent. So if you want a copy, it shows you, gives you the basic principle. It's so simple, you won't believe it till you try it. And the first time you try it, you won't believe what you see. It really collects water, and all the general ideas. Now, popular science, I can't see what the date is, I think it was last year, came out with a modern day air well. This is made out of PVC, and it gives you, on the back side here, according to the humidity in your area, about what you can expect to accumulate in an air well. And it runs from 3 to 5 gallons a day. Range or things. So when we moved down here, they didn't have any signs, any road signs. And we thought, well, let's put up a circle of some kind so they know how to find it. So we just put up those pie tins. And then one night we were driving home and a big blue star, I guess, or something, came out of the sky and just kept going horizontally along this road. We were trying to catch it, but we couldn't. And we don't know whether it crashed or disappeared or what happened to it, but from that day on, the road became Blue Star Way. We decided to call it Blue Star so that people could find their way out here. Let's see. It took us, we started with a root cellar a year ago February. And in between, we went on many vacations. We found it was easier to take a break once in a while than try to work all the way through. You just burn out, or you get disgusted or something. So we just would stop and go caving. We like to look for caves and things like that. So we just took off. We'd be gone for 2 or 3 days camping or something like that. When we'd come back, we'd be full of new ideas to try. And we've got a lot of ideas that aren't incorporated in the house yet. We're not that far along. I might just go through a few of them. The walls are not finished yet. We left them in their block form. And if we're really not sure whether we're going to stay here or not, because it's getting a little congested for us. The power lines are in now and everything, and it's getting crowded. But if we're to stay here, the walls will be stuccoed in white, and then out about an inch or two from the wall will go in some transparent or translucent material similar to the prismatic material they use in overhead lights to disperse the lights, the little prisms. And behind that will go a highly intensified light source, such as a halogen quartz crystal that are in the new headlights, a very intensive light, will illuminate behind this panel, and through a prism will break up into the color spectrum, all the colors of the rainbow. And with a dimmer, you can alternate the color of your walls and also the intensity. You can dim them down or brighten them up if you want. We like that idea, and I've already done it, and it's spectacular. It changes your... I've come home from work in a real uptight mood and just turned the walls blue and sat down and had dinner, and gee, I just felt great. So it has some kind of effect. The center staircase, the spiral staircase, will also be out of a lucite material. Handrails will be clear plastic, and the foot pieces will be also 2-inch thick lucite. And the light source, like fiber optics, will illuminate through the staircase. And again, through the prism, you'll be able to regulate the color and the intensity of your light in the staircase. The center will have a fountain. We had a tree in there and it died this winter, so I just put a cap on it. There'll be a fountain in there, and we're going to go up about 3 feet and put a spillway, like a parabolic, and then up from that, a homemade rockery where the water will cascade down, a little waterfall. And that'll all be laced with fiber optics for different color effects. Underneath the water, there'll be tubing for propane gas so that we can light the top of the water if you want to sit in the evening and just enjoy a little warmth from the fire. It comes up through the water. And we're using air wells, incidentally. We're soon, if we're to stay here, going to be building our large air well to bring all our water out of the air. The cost of digging a well and the problems they're having in Arizona with water were something we really didn't want to get into. So we found the 1923 patents on air wells. They were made well, I guess you saw them if you're at the meeting. Made in the south of France and Africa and a few other places. Were very successful with them. And then since then they came up with Popular Mechanics with polycarbonates, and the polycarbons that the plastics will condense water about 5 times as fast. So we ran some experiments and found that we could take water out of the air here in a little ice chest at the rate of about 2 gallons a day, which was, if you expand that or multiply that out to a little larger, would be plenty for us. Even 100 gallons a day would be plenty of water for everything we needed. It's not very hard to do. So we're going to go ahead with that. Right now we're hauling most of our water in, but it really doesn't take much. We've learned conservation, we've cut back on things. We have a garden, and we have, we take regular showers and things. But we really don't consume that much water, and when we go in for a grocery run, we get our water at the same time, so it doesn't really affect us that bad. Let's see. Well, I could go on and on and on about the ideas. We've got 100 different ideas that are going to be incorporated in it. The greenhouse up on top will water itself, so we can go away on vacation. This is done with a little electronic sensors that are down near the roots of the plant. And when the plant becomes dry, it signals itself, it signals the water to be turned on, and that has nutrients in it, like hydroponics, in a sense. And you run the nutrients and water down to the plant, and when it has a sufficient amount, then it shuts itself off, which enables us to be free and go wherever we want to go. I guess I'll just start showing you around, and if you got any questions, there's just a lot of different ideas that I wanted to give you if you're building, that you just use your imagination, and most things are cheaper than you think. If you go out looking for them commercially, they're very expensive, but if you, we're garage sailors, and swap meters and barterers, so we've gotten most of our materials that way. When you go into the root cellar, the first thing you'll see, the beams, were an old fence a guy was tearing down. He has a cow ranch in Chino, and he said, well, if you'll haul it away, you can have it. And they were nice 30-year-old oak wood, 4x8 or 2x8s. So it was really good stuff. And they worked perfect for the roof of the food cellar, so it didn't cost us anything. The lumber that went into the top of the place, I did want to mention that again. There's a guy up in Parks. It's between Williams and Flagstaff. We were going to get his card out, and we never got it out. We couldn't find it. I can't think of his name, but if you go to Parks, everybody knows him. He's an independent lumber man, and he goes around and finds burns in different states where they've had forest fires, and he hauls them down here for practically nothing. I mean, it doesn't cost him anything but the gas and time, and he passes the savings on to his customers. And the lumber that we have in here is really good lumber. It's number one Ponderosa, and it cost us 3 times cheaper than the lowest estimate we could find anywhere for lumber. And we went all over the place. So it was quite a savings on the lumber. Beg pardon?
That's that lumber you're talking about?
Yeah. You'll see the beams on the design. It's all rough cut, but the whole amount came just at $2,000 for the lumber. And then the block was, what, about $1,500 for the block. And the septic, which is underneath here, it's down at the end of the driveway, was $1,200, something like that. And then cement and all the other essentials that went into it is still just under $5,000 is all we got into it. We've got a lot of time, and we come out and work late at night and stuff. So if you consider labor, there's quite a bit of time in it. But we enjoy doing it. We've never built a house before. We've never done anything like this, and we really learned a lot. And
Yeah, they're very brave.
huh?
Very brave.
We hadn't intended to build it.
Well, we actually came out here. I had an idea a long time ago, about 25 years ago. We actually designed and flew to a limited extent what were to be flying homes, or a different form of transportation, where your car and your home would be one, and if you had to go out or around, you'd have smaller vehicles that you could come out of this with. But the power source was not in accord with the present system. We didn't use fossil fuels. We were using magnetic energy, basically. And we went to General Motors and really read the Riot Act, because they said we were attempting to overthrow the monetary system, that there'd be no jobs. Because we only had 2 moving parts in the vehicles, and there was little or no maintenance, hardly to speak of. And the fuel was magnetic, so in nature, so it was everywhere. And it would have been a good idea, and I think someday we'll probably have it. We're still working on it, but we started to build one here, and people are a little frightened of things they don't understand, so we had to shut down, and we had to build a house instead. But in the house...
If I have to do it, you have to do it. Bill. But the funny thing was, when we bought this, we weren't told that it was going to
We've done a lot of experiments with circles. Just coincidentally, we didn't really plan it that way. We found growing in a circle, we've got tons of rabbits around here and all kinds of deer, and every night we're loaded with coon and skunk down here, but so far, none of them have touched our garden. We've had little square patches out, and they'd be devoured overnight, but, you know, they'd come in and eat all right down to the roots. I don't know if there's a coincidence there or what. So far, we haven't concluded our experiment, but we've watched the rabbits and everything just go right around or over the garden. They don't seem to bother anything. I don't know. See, I should mention, I think it's important to mention, the reason we're facing north, outside of the fact is this is what we got when we bought the property, a north sloping hill. We found out in starting to calculate, think about it, that in Arizona, at least for us, it was an advantage because we really don't like the hot summers. The cold winters we can bundle up and we don't mind those as much as we do the hot summers. So we said, well, at least if we're facing north, it'll be a little cooler. Well, we didn't know until we got about halfway through and started running some tests of what advantages we were incorporating. But all your cool air, because of the tilt of the planet, is on your north side. And with a hole in the center, the sun acts as a pump. It creates a vacuum and draws in the cool air. And all we have to do is open or crack one of the windows at the back side of the house, and we create a draft around through the house. And it's just like an air conditioner. And the hotter it gets, the cooler the house becomes, because the pump or the sun pumps that much faster or harder and creates more of a draft. And it was spectacular. It was a bonus. And this kind of acts as a funnel and pulls that cool air right through. And when you go in, and I'll open the doors, you can feel a draft. Of course, it's a little windy now, but on a perfectly calm day, you can feel the draft coming through there when the sun's out. The solarium at the base has 4-inch flagstone, and this acts as a thermomass to collect the heat from the sun, and it does a fine job. We can go in there any time of the night and still feel the heat coming off the stone. Like I mentioned, the house is pretty much maintaining between 50 and 60 degrees all the time right now. Sand floors we found are real beneficial. And I think I mentioned in class, I used to be a machinist when I was a kid, and a lot of them would wind up with back problems and leg problems later on in their life, and they found out that it was the concrete was pounding and walking on concrete. So we decided, well, let's leave the sand floors. They're good for a lot of things, including a cushion. If we put plastic and a carpet padding and then a real nice plush carpet in the bedroom, there's no problem. It's still soft underneath all the way through. And we just got some throw rugs in there now, but when you step on them, you'll see what I'm talking about. It's nice and soft. And in the shop area, which is over to the left, if I decide to go with a hard floor, then I'll just put a plywood down with some linoleum or squares or something like that on it. And I'd still have that cushion and a hard floor. And they're all portable. And that brings me to the walls. There's no load-bearing walls necessary in the construction, as you'll see when we get inside. Most of your weight comes to the outside. We've got an 8-inch pitch. The water drains from the center down, and most of the weight of the sand, there's 40 tons of sand on the top. Drains off to the side, and the weight pulls walls in tight together. The ceiling's built like a spider web. They're sections, there's 12 sections, and the boards are laid in close together, and when we put the earth on, they all tied in, pushing down, so everything interlocks. And the walls the same way. We've never had a crack, we've never had a leak in anything since we built the place. It's phenomenal the way it all came together. Well, I was going to talk to you about the walls. The walls are all going to be portable. All our plumbing and electrical comes from under the ground, and it's all PVC, and you can move it. So we decided, well, if we don't want the kitchen over there, we can move it over here, or a bedroom, we can expand it or contract it, or we can do whatever we want. And these walls, these modular walls, some of which can be the light source that I mentioned earlier, can just plug into the outer wall. So you can have a lighted or translucent or transparent wall in between rooms. They're only going to be 6 feet tall because we wanted to keep the circulation going. And we felt 6 feet was sufficient to give us the privacy of the room that we needed. Well, I think I'll just take you through, and then if you have any questions, I can stand here all day telling you what all the ideas are.
I'm doing a lot better.
This is going to be a shop area over here. I've got a window so I can watch the road. There's a lot of times out here we don't shave or comb our hair, or we run around in cutoffs a lot of the time, and folks coming out from California have to beeline it and get changed and everything. I got the people. Now none of this is finished. We just put up the ornaments just to get them out of the storage. We haven't, finished anything yet. It's just still in its infant stages. Here's the boards I talked about and how we interlaid them.
Clean them up.
Beg your pardon?
Clean them up.
Clean them up?
The ones from the fence.
I couldn't hear
These
you.
are not the ones from the fence.
From what?
From the fence.
The giveaway.
Oh, no. They're in the root cellar. We'll get over there. And these aren't finished yet. This isn't dry rot. It's just a fungus that comes with new lumber, and as it dries, which will be another 6 months, and we'll just brush it right off. And we'll probably treat it with some kind of safe water or bug retardant, although we haven't had any problems with bugs at all in this area. Over here is going to be one of the bedrooms, and then a little small bathroom in here at a wedge shape. We're going to take advantage of the steam coming out of the shower. It's going to be a kind of a fern room here, a transparent fern room that'll grow different types of ferns. And that'll be right off the shower. We like a lot of green things. We lost them all this last winter, but we had some nice philodendrons and everything. And we'll be having them again. And this is all our power, by the way, is solar. Of course, you can't see anything in the daytime. We produce all our own electricity, and our power bills are zero. We have no money put out at all for energy anymore. We cook with solar, and we provide all our electricity and heat our water, and refrigeration and everything is done off the sun. Basically we run on DC. We like the efficiency of DC power, although we have inverters so that we can invert to run our AC appliances that we brought with us, our blenders and our chop tools, grinders and drill motors and things like this. run off the AC, so we just turn the inverter on. There's no problem. Our TVs are all color DC. They're low amperage. They burn less than 2 amps of power. They're pretty efficient. Why don't you turn the TV on? We put, well, this is going to be the kitchen area over here. And I'll turn the light on in the root cellar and take a peek No wind. No, we don't have to worry about the wind. Storms, we come down here and just read a book. It's pleasant. It's just a workshop. You know, I'm just still in the catch-all stages because we're still building, but I just threw up some shelves and things. But underneath the bench over there are just 6 batteries, and that gives us all the power we need to run everything that we have down here. Very, very efficient. We've got, I have a little monitor over here on a little TV that's in here in case I'm in here and I want to catch the news or something. There's a little TV over here, and the reception's very good up here, but it draws about, 2/3 of an amp. You know, sometimes I forget and leave it on and stuff, but it doesn't drain anything down. It runs pretty efficient. And then we've got a bigger color set out there. This is the old fence I told you about. The guy was 30 years old. And
Yeah, they've got the mirrors.
skylights like this. I mean, the facilities for them, the boards are already cut. But we found that we're getting so much light down there now that we didn't need them. And we left the glass in each of the spaces through the winter, and they all broke. They all cracked. They were all thermal pane. And we got those free too for the hauling. So we didn't lose much. But we sure learned about temperature changes and leaving things out. So the one skylight, we can vent it if it gets too hot. You know, it opens. It's stuck right now, but it opens up. And we put mirrors around it. And these little prisms bring rainbows down in there, and there's usually a bunch of rainbows all over down in the house.
Probably lost that due to water getting into the outside street. Pretty fresh.
Oh, it's out in here. Out in here.
Yeah, that's the old well.
Oh, yeah.
You probably wouldn't have lost your thermal paint.
So that little collector right there is the one that runs that.
Yeah, this runs that little fan. Of course, not much sun today, but it just turns it on and on. Enough to circulate the air down there. That's all there is to it. No moving parts, no pollution, no noise. Come on around here.
And walk on his roof, huh?
It's got 40 tons, I'm sure. A couple of more pounds on him.
40 tons of dirt up here, Ray.
But you can test the roof. There's plenty of resilience left. I mean, we can go up another 6 stories with the building.
They have a cat.
Yeah. We got a cat.
rating of R100. The only exposed wall is in the front of the house, and it contains mostly double-pane, energy-efficient windows. The only exposed portion of the roof looks like a submarine coming to surface, surrounded with glass blocks to allow in light. So, Bill, this is the only exposed section of the roof? This is where your light's getting in?
Right. It comes down the center of the house, and then also from windows on the front side of the house.
Okay, and it goes in that glass block, then there's just a shaft running down through there?
And the walls of the shaft are painted white so that the light reflects and spreads throughout the center.
Okay, well, I know it's a big home, so we've got to be standing on the rest of the roof right now. And how deep is the soil here?
The dirt itself is more than 4 feet deep, and then we've got polyurethane insulation bats underneath that.
How do you keep it all draining? Because I know you don't want any water leaks there. I mean, how do you get the water out of here?
There's a very slight slope to the south that directs all the water off the roof.
Okay. And then material, I see there's, right here, we've got a little bit of old asphalt, it looks like. Is that down on the roof also?
Yes, all the fill dirt for covering the building was provided free by the city of Dallas.
That's all right. How heavy is this now? I mean, you've got a lot of soil, a lot of fill on top of your roof. How much weight?
I come up with a figure of around 800 tons overhead.
800 tons. Do you ever worry about earthquakes?
No, not earthquakes or tornadoes for that matter, but when it creaks, we listen very closely.
It makes you a little nervous?
Just a little.
And then right over here, what's at this edge?
We've got a porch that runs the length of the front side of the building on this side of the house.
Well, we're 20 feet deeper now underneath the ground, but there's a lot of light. Bill, what do you call this area here?
It's a clerestory window, and that allows the light to come in from the east and west and bounce off the walls of the shaft above us, thus filling in the center of the house.
And it's just those glass blocks that we just saw that's letting that in.
Right.
Yeah, works good. Notice over here you've got quite a beam, and it looks like it's holding up the whole ceiling structure. I don't see any walls supporting it at all.
Well, the beam that runs the length of the house provides an edge for the planks above us to rest on. And each one of these planks weighs about 4,000 pounds, plus what you've got in the dirt above that.
So these planks are concrete?
Yes, they're pre-stressed concrete, all laid in place in a matter of a few hours.
Okay. And then just this one side has windows, sort of like a walkout basement?
Yes, we've got windows and doors on this wall, which is the west-facing wall. And this allows us to meet all the building codes for requirements about emergency egress.
Okay, so for egress, in case there's a fire in here, you have to have a way out. So all the bedrooms are built against the wall with windows?
Yes, and they also have a view that way out the back side of the house.
That's nice. And then the rest of the house, the other 3 sides, no windows?
Correct. It's all concrete walls with no openings and dirt on the outside.
So low utility bills?
Very, very low. We've spent over $250 for a house half its size before we moved into this one.
Each month on utilities?
Yes.
How about this one?
Less than $200 a month for 4,200 square feet.
Twice as big as the other one?
Yes.
Tell me about this. This looks like a New Mexico fireplace if I've ever seen one.
It was designed and built by a very nice lady from Taos, New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
She builds fireplaces like this all around the world. And
opening there and opening on this side as well?
Right, so it warms both sides of the room. And the rear of the fireplace is like a parabolic mirror. It's set up in such a way that it reflects the heat outward from the fire logs as they're burning, and thus warms a much larger area of the home.
Living underground certainly has its advantages when it comes to energy efficiency. Plus, Bill saves $1,000 a year on insurance because the home qualifies as a semi-fire resistant structure. But keep in mind this was a long and somewhat costly construction process. It took 18 months to build this home at a cost of more than $200 per square foot. If you'd like more information on innovative building techniques that can save you money on your energy bills and your insurance, contact us on the internet at michaelholligan.com.
You'll have a smashing good time cooking up this tile backsplash, and you don't have to be an artist to get it right. Teresa Garrett has the recipe for this fun kitchen project next on Your New House. If you'd like a detailed list of the tools and materials needed for any project that you've seen on the show, you can find it on the internet at www.michaelholligan.com. Your new house is brought to you in part by
Efficiency rating of R100. The only exposed wall is in the front of the house, and it contains mostly double-pane, energy-efficient windows. The only exposed portion of the roof looks like a submarine coming to surface, surrounded with glass blocks to allow in light. So, Bill, this is the only exposed section of the roof? This is where your light's getting in?
Right, it comes down the center of the house, and then also from windows on the front side of the house.
Okay, and it goes in that glass block, then there's just a shaft running down through there?
And the walls of the shaft are painted white so that the light reflects and spreads throughout the center.
Okay, well, I know it's a big home, so we've got to be standing on the rest of the roof right now. And how deep is the soil here?
The dirt itself is more than 4 feet deep, and then we've got polyurethane insulation bats underneath that.
How do you keep it all draining? Because I know you don't want any water leaks there. I mean, how do you get the water out of here?
There's a very slight slope to the south that directs all the water off the roof.
Okay. And then material, I see there's, right here, we've got a little bit of old asphalt, it looks like. Is that down on the roof also?
Yes, all the fill dirt for covering the building was provided free by the city of Dallas.
That's all right. How heavy is this now? I mean, you've got a lot of soil, a lot of fill on top of your roof. How much weight?
I come up with a figure of around 800 tons overhead.
800 tons. Do you ever worry about earthquakes?
No, not earthquakes or tornadoes for that matter, but when it creaks, we listen very closely.
It makes you a little nervous?
Just a little.
And then right over here, what's at this edge?
We've got a porch that runs the length of the front side of the building on this side of the house.
Well, we're 20 feet deeper now underneath the ground, but there's a lot of light. Bill, what do you call this area here?
It's a clerestory window, and that allows the light to come in from the east and west and bounce off the walls of the shaft above us, thus filling in the center of the house.
And it's just those glass blocks that we just saw that's letting that in.
Right.
Yeah, works good. Notice over here you've got quite a beam, and it looks like it's holding up the whole ceiling structure. I don't see any walls supporting it at all.
Well, the beam that runs the length of the house provides an edge for the planks above us to rest on. And each one of these planks weighs about 4,000 pounds, plus what you've got in the dirt above that.
So these planks are concrete?
Yes, they're pre-stressed concrete, all laid in place in a matter of a few hours.
Okay. And then just this one side has windows, sort of like a walkout basement?
Yes, we've got windows and doors on this wall, which is the west-facing wall. And this allows us to meet all the building codes for requirements about emergency egress.
Okay, so for egress, in case there's a fire in here, you have to have a way out. So all the bedrooms are built against the wall with windows?
Yes, and they also have a view that way out the back side of the house.
That's nice. And then the rest of the house, the other 3 sides, no windows?
Correct. It's all concrete walls with no openings and dirt on the outside.
So low utility bills?
Very, very low. We've spent over $250 for a house half its size before we moved into this one.
Each month on utilities?
Yes.
How about this one?
Less than $200 a month for 4,200 square feet.
Twice as big as the other one?
Yes.
Tell me about this. This looks like a New Mexico fireplace if I've ever seen one.
It was designed and built by a very nice lady from Taos, New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
She builds fireplaces like this all around the world. And
opening there and opening on this side as well?
Right, so it warms both sides of the room. And the rear of the fireplace is like a parabolic mirror. It's set up in such a way that it reflects the heat outward from the fire logs as they're burning, and thus warms a much larger area of the home.
Living underground certainly has its advantages when it comes to energy efficiency. Plus, Bill saves $1,000 a year on insurance because the home qualifies as a semi-fire resistant structure. But keep in mind, this was a long and somewhat costly construction process. It took 18 months to build this home at a cost of more than $200 per square foot. If you'd like more information on innovative building techniques that can save you money on your energy bills and your insurance, contact us on the internet at michaelholligan.com.
11, that's right.
Natural light pour in. And throughout the home, hidden lights and recessed chopped glass fixtures help illuminate this subterranean marvel.
Basically what we did was take oil cans and different types of aluminum cans and pour in the concrete with colored glass around it so that the light is recessed up into the concrete and the colored glass is around it for looks, really.
As if to prove that any room would be left untouched by this prehistoric theme, what else would you expect but real bone towel and toilet paper racks in the bathroom?
He put them right in the walls for towel holders, and then he put a antler to hold the toilet paper. He just wanted to have the least things as possible that look like a normal home.
And what about remodeling or moving to something more modern? For the Davis family, pioneers of the underground lifestyle, this subterranean cave is their bedrock.
I don't ever see that happening. It's not just a house, it's really part of the family. I mean, there's a lot of emotions tied in with it.
Earth-sheltered homes, even in the worst winter, maintain a natural temperature in the mid-50s. So you can see that just by adding a little heat, it can be very comfortable. In fact, the Davises, the first year that they spent in their home, guess what their heating bill was? Would you say $200? $50? No, it was $2. These spheres are spouting just like mushrooms. We'll give you a tour of this underground home a little later. Next up, no windows? No problem.
We have a sense and a feeling of being outdoors inside every room.
Coming up on Subterranean. About halfway between Dallas and Houston, you find the East Texas town of Jewett. Now, you get off the freeway there and you drive another half hour, so you are way out there. And way out there is where you're going to find one of the most incredible underground homes anywhere. It's made with connected domes and also has murals that will take you around the world.
People come out and say, "Where's your house?" And I say, "It's right here."
They just don't grasp it. They're like, well, surely part of it isn't underground.
It's hard to believe, but under this hill, beneath 10 tons of dirt, is a series of 4 interconnected domes, forming a spacious 3,000-foot luxury home. This modest entryway does little to give away the inner splendor of this subterranean home.
There's a 100-foot tunnel that goes from here all the way into the main entrance to the home.
But once you pass through an entrance that feels like a well-excavated rabbit hole, you'll emerge into a wonderland that's fit for a fairy tale. This magnificent underground creation was built by Glenn Young with the support of his son, Chad.
I thought, well, what's this one going to be like? You know, my dad and his crazy schemes. What's he thinking now? What's this going to look like?
Glenn began digging a hole in the ground for his home in the spring of 2000. First, he found the perfect hill and leveled it. Then, he literally ballooned up a plastic dome form, like inflating half a ball. Inside, the dome form was reinforced with rebar and sprayed with concrete. Then, they bulldozed the 5 tons of dirt back over it, precisely restoring the hill. When it was complete, they had a stunning 3-bedroom, 3,000-square-foot home, all under 3 large domes. Surprisingly, with no windows or sunlight, the home still has a wide-open feeling. The reason? 12-foot-high ceilings and murals everywhere. Beautiful murals.
One of my concepts was to come up with murals on each room. So each room has a different theme. And we have, in every room, we have a sky, we have a sense and a feeling of being outdoors inside every room.
The tour starts with the expansive living room and kitchen area with murals from the Pacific Islands. Ceiling fans circulate the air while painted trees create a tropical canopy overhead. Polished granite floors provide an ideal anchor for otherwise whimsical walls. In the kitchen, luxurious tiger skin granite countertops span over 12 feet, while carved cherry wood cabinets lend a sense of warmth. And the pantry? It's guarded by a painting of Glenn's faithful dog, Akita. This central underground dome connects to the other rooms. There's the guest room, also called Egyptian room, complete with a sarcophagus, and an adjacent mystical meditation lounge.
And we go through the Stargate into the meditation dome.
There's Chad's room, an Acapulco Riviera theme, complete with cool tunes. And then there's the crowning touch, the master bedroom. With ambient warm lighting along a painted horizon, its murals impart a sense of tranquility, perfect for this room.
We're in the Mayan room, which is my bedroom, and I wanted a sunset type theme, a late afternoon, relaxing, calm. And then as you can see, you go up to the stars, you can see the stars at night, and then you have the Mayan pyramid.
But it's the master bathroom that's perhaps the most inviting of all. With its spacious jacuzzi tub, golden onyx walls and floors, carved wooden columns, and a mural of a waterfall worthy of paradise, this bathroom truly has it all. What's the reaction when others see Glenn's underground pad?
Like, wow, I can't believe it. They say, I don't want to leave, I want to stay here.
The house is filled with wonderful details everywhere you look. Pure crystal spheres, adding to the surreal and somewhat mystical surroundings in this uniquely underground interior. But this great underground advocate also enjoys the tranquility of a lazy afternoon, fishing by the pond. But Glenn doesn't have to go far. He's created one just outside his front door, or rather, tunnel.
I bought 400 catfish, and they were about 5-6 inches long when I bought them. And they've grown this much.